Hi there. In this video I'm going to show you the process that I use to take a large data set in Excel to calculate the Herfindahl-Hirschmann index for market pairs for a whole bunch of airline routes. So the Herfindahl-Hirschmann index, or better known as the HHI, is a single figure that runs from 0 to 10,000, which looks at, which expresses how competitive a particular market is. If there is only one operator in a market, the index is 10,000 and it indicates it's a full monopoly. The clever thing about the HHI is that it considers how big individual operators are in a particular market and therefore how competitive it is. So if there are two operators in a market, if they both have 50% of the market share, the HHI would be 50 raised to the power of 2 plus 50 raised to the power of 2, which is 5,000. If, however, one of the operators has 90% of the market and the other operator only has 10, the HHI, the figure would be 8,200. So both markets are duopolies, but one where the balance of the market is even has a score for HHI of 5,000, but one where the market is dominated by one player is 8,200. So being able to calculate the HHI gives us an indication of how much any particular operator is dominating a market. Now you can calculate the HHI for any market set, and as long as you have the market share for all of the players in the particular market. And that's not a challenge for most cases, but when you're in the airline industry, you're interested in the city pairs. Saying Ryanair has around 20% of the European market doesn't really help us to understand how their market position is across all of the routes that they serve. And to be able to do this, I'm using a data set drawn down from OAG, which is a data provider. Let's see if I'm recording this. Yes. So today I'm using the OAG analyzer to draw down the data set, and then I'm going to port it into Excel, and I've got a 4 or 5 stage process which I'm going to talk you through to be able to calculate your own HHIs for large data sets. I'm doing this because every time I try and do this, I forget what I've done the last time. And it took me 2 days to remember how to do this. So I'm recording this video so that I remember what to do next time. So in this case, I'm looking at the schedules analyzer in OAG, and I'm going to open a previous inquiry that I've made here, and it will show you what I'm calculating. I don't want frequency share, but I want frequency, the number of flights that are offered, and the number of seats, which is also useful, but I'm not going to actually use that in the HHI. I am interested in the carrier code and the carrier name in case I don't know any of the carriers. And in terms of O&D, I am taking the departure airport name, the departure region, which might be useful or interesting, the arrival city's name and the arrival city's code. But the thing that I'm most interested in for calculating the HHI is the city pair market. This is more important than the airport pair market, because if a particular low-cost carrier is operating out of a secondary airport in a particular market, you may not get a full appraisal of a particular city pair if you're only just looking down at the airport level. So in this case, I'm going to be looking at the city pairs. And I'm just going to take an individual week. I'm looking at April in 2023. And down here, I am going to just pull up one region to analyze. So I'm going to look at EU1, which is Western Europe. And having that as both the origin and the destination means that I'm going to get all of the routes within the European Union Region 1, OAG Region 1, which is this Western Europe. So it would incorporate domestic UK services such as London to Aberdeen. It will include routes between countries, UK to Germany, so London to Frankfurt, and it will also incorporate routes from one country to another, such as London to Paris or Paris to Frankfurt. And that is all I need to do. So I'm going to export that data set and once I've downloaded that, I'm going to upload it into Excel. So here I've got my data set, and in the first column I've got market pair by airport, and then the second column I've got market pair by city. And you can see the importance of the difference between the two. So here on this route here I've got Berlin to Sabiha Gökçen Airport in Istanbul, but the market pair itself is Berlin to Istanbul. Now if Lufthansa flew from Berlin to Istanbul Grand Airport, the main airport in Istanbul, to be able to look at the market share between the two, it's important to look at the city pair level rather than the airport pair level. Then I've got the frequency, 1 a day in this case, and the number of seats offered. So I'm going to take I'm going to summarize this data with a pivot table. I'm sure many of you have used pivot tables in the past. For me, this is the important part that I need to remember in future. So I'm going to take the market pair as rows, and I'm going to take the carrier code by columns, and then I am going to total the seats. And you can see that each route now has how many seats are provided by the different airlines, and it's a very large database, but here you'll see the grand total of all of the seats offered. So that's the first stage. The second stage involves making a copy of this sheet. So move or copy the sheet, and we're going to create a copy, and we're going to move that to the end. I'm going to call this stage 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the entire spreadsheet, and I'm going to paste the values. So paste special values. What this means is that the data that was in the pivot table has now become part of an actual spreadsheet, whereas if you'd kept it just in the pivot table, you couldn't do too much by way of further calculation, and if you change something in the first spreadsheet, the original export data, then there would be a problem. So that's fine. The next thing that I want to do is to count up how many operators are operating in each market. So now I'm going to create a new column which is going to count up how many competitors are operating in each market. So number of competitors, and I'm going to put in a simple count function which starts at the end of the database and works all the way back to the first airline here. And in that particular route there is 1. So now I'm just going to copy this all the way down 12,000 rows to complete the to be able to count all of the competitors in all of the markets. So there was actually only about 3,800 rows in this data, but I've now got a count of how many competitors are in each market. The next stage is to calculate for each airline how much market share they had in each market. And I'm going to do that by firstly copying all of the airline codes and pasting it alongside. So now what I can do is I can count how much market share 2L had in this particular market. And because it wasn't operating, it's 0. So now I want to copy that along the row and then down the columns. And to do that, I am going to put a $ here, which prevents, as I copy this across, it carries on picking up this cell here, this DV5, and then as I copy it down, it picks up the next row. So that's the right calculation for doing this section. Right. So now I've got the market share for each player in each route, and I want to check that I've done this correctly. So what I'm going to do is create a new column called check total. And all I'm going to do is summate this row back to where we started doing the calculations. So here, actually not there, DWDX. And if I'm correct, that should add up to 1, which it does. So I'm just going to drag that down a little bit. I'm not going to do it all the way. Yes, that's all operating correctly. So the next stage is to try and calculate the HHI for each route. And that's fairly simple. What I'm going to do, the calculation for HHI is to summate the square of the market share for each player in the market. So the first thing I'm going to do is calculate the square of each market share. And to do this, what I'm going to do is again create another set of rows with all of the airline codes and use the previous number and raise it to a square. So first off, I'm going to take all of these labels again. And now what I'm going to do is going back along here, I'm going to raise that number, I'm going to square that number. So now what I want to do is again make sure that I'm taking the right number. So here, if I drag that along, that's going to get, damn it, hang on a minute. So now all I've got to do is copy that formula across the columns and down the rows, which I'm going to do, and you can assume that I've done that. So now we have everything we need to calculate the HHI for each route. So I'm just going to create a new column, call it HHI, and all I'm going to do is, so that equals some IS2, IS5 to here, and here I'm going to multiply that by 10,000 because I've been working in market in percentages rather than in totals. So just as a check, you can see that the numbers vary. So now we have the HHI for every single route in the EU1 region, the Western Europe. The third stage is to take this spreadsheet and copy it into a new sheet just using the values. So what we're going to do is we're going to move or copy the sheet, move it to the end, create a copy, and once that's done, I am going to copy the entire spreadsheet, paste it on itself as just the values. Talk amongst yourselves. And I'm going to copy and paste special values. And now I'm going to show you how if you want to look up just the HHI for one particular airline, how you can do that. And the way you do that is you copy this column, you create a new spreadsheet, and you paste it in there. And then for a particular airline, if you take the original values, so let's take Air France and copy their seat capacity, and it looks like I haven't got any values in there, but if I go down you can see that they're there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to sort this into by the Air France, and I'm going to get all of the Air France numbers. That's a summation. So now I can average the Air France column. And so for Air France, their average HHI is 7,018, a little bit less than the whole market. What you can then also do is, and I'm just going to do this, is I'm going to take this area, I'm going to sort it by HHIs, and now what I can do is I can look at all of the HHIs for in a graph. Inside a chart, let's do a line, a column chart, and you can see, and by doing that you can see the structure of the HHIs for this particular airline. I hope you found this useful, and if it's me that I'm talking to, well done for recording this so I remember what I do the next time I'm doing it. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time. Bye.